Good morning. Welcome to a voting meeting of the House Finance Committee. We have 5 bills before us today, and I'd like to start with our Senior Committee Legislative Assistant, Lori Smith, calling the roll.
Chairman Samuelson,
Here,
Rep. Abney,
vote by designation.
Rep. Sapita Freites,
Vote by designation.
Fleming, Gallagher, Gungauer, Harris,
Vote by designation.
Inglis,
Vote by designation.
Kudrowski,
Vote by designation.
Rabb,
Vote by designation.
Scott,
Krajewski is present. And Scott is vote by designation.
Venkat,
Venkat is present online, and we will be voting by designation.
Waxman, Webster. Chairman Griner,
Present.
DeVanzo, Fritz, Gatos,
Vote by designation.
Jones,
Vote by designation.
Kephart,
Here.
Kutz,
Vote by designation.
Mako, Rossi, Rinkavich, Stemba,
Here.
Stender. Ooh, child.
Extenders here, Bill.
All 26 accounted for. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. We're going to be beginning with House Bill 242, sponsored by Representative Paul Friel. And with our new committee procedures the House is using, instead of motions and seconds, they're asking that the chair call up each of the bills. So the chair calls up House Bill 242, printers number 161. I'd like to have our Senior Committee Executive Director, Mark Foreman, give a summary of House Bill 242.
House Bill 242 updates the beginning farmer tax credit.
Representative Friel has joined us, and I would like to offer him a minute to talk about the bill. We had a public hearing on this bill on Tuesday.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, this is an existing law, and we're updating it. And the most significant pieces of it are, it's currently 1 year. It'll be extended to 3 years. And before it was just in favor of the seller. Now it is also the buyer and the seller eligible for the tax credit. So those young farmers getting in are eligible as well. So I think that's the meat of the changes to the bill.
Thank you. And I would like to call up an amendment. I would like to offer Amendment 407, and I'll ask Committee Executive Director Mark Foreman to give a summary of the amendment.
This is a technical amendment offered by the Department of Revenue.
Department of Revenue has asked us to add a phrase that is used in all tax credit, most of our tax credit legislation. So that's the amendment before us. Are there any discussion on the amendment 407? Are there any negative votes on Amendment 407? The amendment passes unanimously. I'd like to go to the bill as amended. Is there any discussion from the members on House Bill 242 as amended? I'd like to call the roll on House Bill 242 as amended.
Chairman Samuelson,
Yes.
Rep. Abney,
Yes by designation.
Sapita Freites,
Yes by designation.
Fleming, Gallagher, Gungauer, Harris,
Yes by designation.
Inglis,
Yes by designation.
Kudrowski, Rabb,
Yes by designation.
Scott,
Yes by designation.
Venkat,
Yes by designation.
Waxman, Webster,
Yes.
Chairman Griner,
Yes.
DeVanzo, Fritz, Gatos,
Yes by designation.
Jones,
Yes by designation.
Kephart,
No.
Kutz,
Yes by designation.
Mako, Rossi, Rinkavich, Stanbach,
Yes.
Stender.
And Representative Cepeda Freitas is present on the vote, recording you as a yes vote on the beginning farmer tax credit, House Bill 242. The yeas are 25, the nays are 1. The bill is reported from the Finance Committee as amended. Next, we'll move to House Bill 820, sponsored by Representative Chris Sappi. And I'd like to call on our committee executive director, Mark Foreman, to give a summary of House Bill 820.
House Bill 820 is the Working Pennsylvania Tax Credit.
And the prime sponsor, Representative Sappi, is with us, and also Representative Jones is present for the record. We had 2 public hearings on this. We had a public hearing February 26th here in Harrisburg and a public hearing in Chester County in Kennett Square on March 12th. So I'd like to give the opportunity to Representative Sappi to speak for a minute about House Bill 820. And Representative Harris is present for the record.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Chairman Greiner, for allowing me to speak on this bill. The committee has had an opportunity now twice to learn about the Working Pennsylvania's tax credit. This is an earned income tax credit that mirrors the federal earned income tax credit for low-wage earners, and is currently in place in 31 other states. And it's a very important piece of legislation, I believe, because it supports our workforce. We have folks in the workforce right now struggling to meet their obligations, and when they struggle to make their obligations, such as the rent or childcare or other obligations, they tend to slide backwards. And when you miss the rent a couple of times, or you're staying out of work because you can't afford your child care because of some unforeseen expense, such as a large healthcare expense, the need for 4 new tires, for instance, something like that really sets these folks behind because, again, they're low-wage earners. We don't want them falling into our social safety net programs. We want to keep them in the workplace, moving forward into the middle class. We want them to aspire to increase their higher education, get certifications, professional certifications. We want them to aspire to own their own home, but they are asset limited at this moment, and they are employed. So I think, again, we've had hearings on this. We have lots of information that you've already heard. I don't think I need to go into this too much more. But again, I think we should join 31 other states who realize for every dollar we spend in an earned income tax credit program, we get 4 back. So for what this would cost the state of Pennsylvania, multiply that by 4. It also saves us $3 on the dollar in social safety net programs. So this is a smart move and a smart investment in people that each of us have in our districts right now. We all have this demographic working in our districts, supporting our small businesses, and it's really important that we finally recognize that they need this. And it is capped. This is not something that they fall into forever. So it's when they need this support, we give it to them, and they continue moving forward, which is what we all want. We want our kids to, do this. As the parent of 3 adult children that are living outside of the house, at least 2 fall into this category. I want to see them move ahead. I don't want to see them move home. So thank you so much for your consideration, and thank you again, Chairman.
Thank you. I do want to open it up to questions from the members of the committee. I do want to start myself. This earned income tax credit at the federal level has been around since the Nixon administration, and it was significantly expanded under Ronald Reagan in the Tax Act of 1986. The data we got from the IRS says there are 802,000 people who get the earned income tax credit in Pennsylvania about an average of $2,600 each. That's working moms, that's working dads, in some cases also single individuals. So that's who gets the federal earned income tax credit. As Representative Sappi noted, there are 31 states that if you get the federal one, you also get a tax credit from your state. In Montana, it's 10% of what you get. New Jersey, it's 45%. This bill before us would say that a working Pennsylvanian, a working mom, a working dad in Pennsylvania would get 30% of what you get from the federal government. I do want to note that in your packets, we did get a fiscal estimate from the Department of Revenue. It's a one-page estimate, and it says in the first full year of implementation, 26-27, the fiscal impact is $598 million. Year 2, 628, then 649, then 666. So there's a projection out to the 29-30 fiscal year. And as I said, we had a lot of testimony at our 2 public hearings. Any members of the committee would like to comment or ask questions about the bill?
If I may.
Yes, Representative Fritz.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. We just discussed the fiscal reality of this, and while I do support putting money back in the pockets of our constituents, the reality is this is a $600 million hit. And unless I see a commensurate reduction in expenditures that coincides with this, I can't wholeheartedly support this. Again, this is a $600 million hit in revenue to the state, and we are already facing a very dire and bleak financial future with our fiscal deficit. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Other members of the committee would like to comment? Representative Jones.
Thank you, Chairman. And I want to qualify my remarks here by saying, unless something's changed in the last 24 hours, I will probably vote differently than my chairman on this bill. And I want to thank Chairman Greiner for, generally we try to stick with our chairman out of respect, and I have the utmost respect for Chairman Greiner. But I'm going to be an enthusiastic yes on this bill with his blessing. So thank you for that. It's interesting that the number is 600 million. I can't help but point out the fact that that's just a little bit less than we give 3 non-preferred universities, Penn State, Pitt, and Temple, which are for all intents and purposes private institutions with a combined endowments of over $10 billion. So that's where I would find the 600 million rather than taking it out of missing an opportunity to put it in the pockets of our hardworking, lower income Pennsylvanians. I do think revenue's a concern. We have to be responsible. Quite frankly, we'll just waste the 600 million anyway. I don't think there's any better use of $600 million than to put it back in the pockets of the people who I think are probably the single most deserving group, and that is the working poor, or certainly working lower middle class. So I understand some of the concerns with it. I think we will get a great ROI out of it. I think we as Republicans should, particularly being in the minority, should jump on every opportunity we can to reduce taxes, particularly when it's directed at incentivizing work. And I think as a result of that, to the representatives, the maker of the bill's point, I think we'll get a great return on investment out of this. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I have Representative Dallas Kephart.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I'm all for giving people money back or not allow them to pay it in to start with. We can lower everybody's tax rates. But I would like to point out that Representative Fritz said about we said about the fiscal note, $600 to $700 million. I would agree with him. I mean, we're going to bring in about, $46 billion this year. Our flatline budget would be a 47.9, so that's already a deficit. This is also, I'd want to point out that people at the lower income levels can get special forgiveness. So they already don't, some of them don't pay taxes on their income anyhow in Pennsylvania. They don't pay any taxes. So, and additionally, this is a welfare program is what it is, because it's a refundable tax credit. They get more back than they pay into taxes. That is the definition of welfare, getting more than you pay in. So that's the refundability portion of this bill. Why I voted no on the last bill, I don't like tax credits at all, any of them. Why? Because the average person doesn't know they exist. But tax lawyers, CPAs, lobbyists, politicians actually read the bills. They do, but the average person doesn't. I went to a recent superintendent thing, and they were talking about tax credits. I said, "You're all educated people in here. Name me 5 tax credits." They couldn't do it. So anyhow, so that's all I'd point out in this, that, you know, I want to give people more money back too. Let's eliminate the income tax then. Let's all together. So anyhow, that's all my point on this. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Kephart. I have comments from Representative Keith Harris.
Yeah, good morning. I think I'm amendment, Representative Jones. You know, prior to the 1980s, the working class, the middle class, right? They was the majority of the earners in this country, right? So since the 1980s, the top percent, the 1%, now they get all the tax credits, right? They get to offshore their money, right? They get to put their money in the Cayman Islands, right? Then since globalization, all the corporations are overseas, right? So we have a gutting of the industry in this country, right? So, of course, the middle class and the lower middle class should get the breaks. You know, this country, like I keep mimicking this, this country is producing trillionaires now, and we're talking about giving tax credits to the working class, middle class, or poor class. It doesn't make sense. Let's give them a break. Thank you.
I have comments from Representative Ben Waxman from Philadelphia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you so much to the maker of the bill for bringing this forward. I think it is just such an important thing that we need to do. The idea that giving a tax credit to the working poor and lower class, working class people is a welfare program is just something that I cannot let be said and not responded to. This is the opposite of that. This is something that encourages people who are working to keep working. It gives a break to people who deserve it and need it the most. You know, and the idea that anything that is done to help anyone is then categorized in such a way to try to raise all kinds of disparaging things about proposals and ideas because of who they might be helping and the imaginary people behind that. I think that we should do this. I think we are in a situation now where our economy is on rocky ground. You know, the stock market is like watching you know, a heart patient who is going up and down. We have an incredible amount of instability thanks to this administration in Washington, with a total disregard for what is good for working people, you know, all over this country. And we're talking about putting a little bit more money in the pockets of people who need it the most. And I'm stunned. I'm a yes, and I urge my colleagues to vote yes on this bill.
Thank you, Representative Waxman. Are there any other comments from members of the committee? I would like to speak and respond to a couple of the things that were said. I know of the committee, we have the fiscal note in front of us, $598 million the first year, going up to $666 million in the 4th full year of implementation. I do want to point out that we have other tax credits in our budget, and some of them are significant, some of them are higher than what we're talking about today. In our budget, we allow net operating losses. We allow corporations to take net operating losses from previous years to offset their taxable income. That was first enacted in 1979. That has been expanded 11 times, including last summer. We all voted on, well, most of us voted on a bill that allowed the offset on corporate on net operating losses to go from 40% of taxable income to, in the future, a company can offset 80%. So we have information from the Independent Fiscal Office that the cumulative impact of the net operating loss in one fiscal year, they took a look at fiscal year 2021, is $650 million already. And then last summer we voted on a proposal that adds an additional $308 million by the 4th year, by the fourth year of implementation. So by about 4 years from now, it'll be about $950 million on net operating losses. We all know that 3 years ago we voted to decrease the corporate net income tax. We voted to decrease the corporate net income tax from 9.99% down to 4.99% over an 8-year period. That impact was $200 million just in 1 year. And I know it was referenced that we have a very difficult budget negotiation coming up. We're talking about our priorities. We're talking about what areas we'd like to focus on for tax credits. Our friends in the state Senate, Senate Finance Committee, our counterparts, they voted in this very difficult year. They voted for a new corporate net income tax reduction of $1.8 billion. This vote took place about a month ago. $1.85 billion, and then also about $40 million with the sales and vendor discount. So in the context of a difficult budget negotiation, we are talking about tax credits, who we should provide additional tax credits for. I believe that putting tax credit in the hands of working Pennsylvanians, and this program at the federal level, mirrored by the 31 states, is for folks who are working. Let's put money in the hands of working moms and working dads, and let's vote yes on Representative Sappy's legislation, House Bill 820. I'd like to call the vote on House Bill 820.
Chairman Samuelson,
Yes.
Rep. Abney,
Yes by designation.
Sapita Freites,
Yes.
Fleming, Gallagher, Gungauer, Harris,
Yes.
Inglis,
Yes by designation.
Krajewski, Rab,
Yes by designation.
Scott,
Yes by designation.
Venkat,
Online and yes by designation.
Waxman, Webster,
Yes.
Rep. Griner,
No.
DeVanzo, Fritz, Gatos, excuse me,
Yes by designation.
Mike Jones, Kutz, I'm sorry, Kephart,
No.
Kutz,
No by designation.
Mako, Rossi, Rinkavich, Stanback,
No.
Stender,
House Bill 820 is reported from the Finance Committee by a vote of 17 yes and 9 no. Now I'd like to move on to House Bill 852 and 853, which we had a public hearing on Tuesday of this week, sponsored by Representative Webster. The chair calls up House Bill 852, printers number 882. Call on Mark Foreman, our executive director, to give a summary.
House Bill 852 permits tax collectors to recoup costs of collecting delinquent business taxes.
We have an amendment to this bill sponsored by Representative Webster, Amendment A382. Mark Foreman for a description of the amendment.
The amendment would allow either a certified letter or 3 first-class letters.
Thank you. Any discussion on the amendment? Representative Fritz? I'm sorry, Representative DeVanzo.
Come on now, I got a little bit more hair than he does. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yesterday on the House floor, we voted to add protections for privacy, right, for our constituents. This amendment actually strips away a level of protection for our constituents. That certified letter that comes in the mail is that last piece that connects that piece of the puzzle. And without this, imagine going into work on Monday knowing that your wages were garnished and you have no idea why. Hey, we sent you 3 letters. Everybody in this room has mailed out events in the last year, and I bet you a quarter of those folks did not get those invitations. I've gotten wedding invitations 6 months after the wedding. the U.S. mail system is simply not reliable without this being certified. The same group of working people that we just voted to give a tax credit for will be affected by this. So we want to put more money into working class folks, and here we are. We're going to strip away a protection, and it's going to hurt this group of the working poor, so to speak. This is not a great amendment. This will hurt folks in my district and across the Commonwealth. Speaking here with Representative Rankavich, we are actually going to work together with our local leaders. We want to see a forensic audit done of these local tax collection agencies. We've got to dive in because we have an issue here. Okay, I think the right move here today is to pause these bills. Let's dive in and see what's going on with our local tax collecting agencies. And if all of them are doing the same practice, we need to stop it. It's our job to protect our constituents. Pushing these bills forward is not the right move. I'm going to ask my colleagues here, I'm going to urge you guys, and I'm going to ask everybody here for a no vote today. Let's just pump the brakes. I'm not saying there's not a window down the road that we can't come back and, hey, listen, there is an issue. We can correct it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying right now, today is the wrong time. They're just not ready. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Brinkavich?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Private tax collecting agencies only make money if they collect. So what we're talking about here is we're lowering the burden for private, incentivized tax collecting agencies to garnish the wages of our constituents. We're talking about removing the only bit of evidence that notification was made to that constituent. That little piece of paper that you sign when you get a certified letter is the checks and balances that companies like Berkheimer are actually doing their jobs correctly. I'm afraid that we would never consider this measure if it was a court-related issue. And the sad thing is, my constituents and I, we've seen this before. Just a few weeks ago, this body took up a great piece of legislation allowing people to fast-track their property tax and rent rebate checks. But my constituents back at home, they're still waiting because they still haven't even gotten the receipt from Berkheimer to file their property tax and rent rebate application. For years, there was a standard practice where my folks, when they would go and pay their taxes, they would mail their tax bill, and they'd put a self-addressed envelope with a stamp on it, and companies like Berkheimer would respond with the receipt. Then out of nowhere, that practice ended. And now nobody can get a hold of these companies. So with this legislation, I'm challenged to assume or pretend that companies like Berkheimer don't make mistakes. And so this is just going to be another cost-cutting measure that these privatized companies want to take on. And if they think that this is too much of a challenge, then I say we should start to look at new companies that do this work, and I urge a no vote from this committee.
Thank you. Any other comments from members of the committee? I just want to point out the bill in chief removes the requirement for a certified letter. The amendment puts it back in, certified letter or three pieces of mail by U.S. mail. Representative Webster, the prime sponsor of the amendment.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a very short response, and I was going to highlight the "or" part as well, that because of the concerns that were expressed last time, especially resonate that sometimes a certified letter does provide evidence of that we've reached this delinquent taxpayer, and sometimes a letter can get lost in the mail. That's why you could do one or the other. I will note for my colleagues that the feedback that I have from local municipalities discussing the issues is that, and I'll say 9 times out of 10, but the point being, most of the time, a taxpayer gets the letter and responds immediately. The big issue is either you respond immediately or you hide it somewhere and get yourself into further difficulties with your tax collections. So the emotion around that specific part is really about the delinquent taxpayer, not so much whether it's the tax collector in a private or public in a certain municipality. I will share the frustration as a veteran. I can't even get a hold of the VA because of the phone systems that touch one or touch two, or eventually you get an IA voice that can't answer your question and disconnects. That frustration is real. It's a modern fact of life, and I would share your concern that you know, especially where finances are concerned, you need to get to a person. So I still recommend that we make this part of the bill better so that tax collectors across Pennsylvania have the option of using a certified letter or 3 first-class letters. And I thank the chairman for the time.
Thank you. Are there any other comments on the Amendment A 382? I'd like to ask for a roll call vote on Amendment A 382.
Chairman Samuelson,
Yes.
Abney,
Yes by designation.
Sapita Freites, Fleming, Gallagher, Gungauer, Harris,
Yes.
Inglis,
Yes by designation.
Krajewski, Rab,
Yes by designation.
Scott,
Yes by designation.
Vincant,
Online and yes by designation.
Waxman, Webster,
Yes.
Chairman Griner,
Yes.
DeVanzo, Fritz, Gatos,
Yes by designation.
Jones, Kephart, Kutz,
Yes by designation.
Rossi, Mako, I'm sorry, Rossi, Rinkavich, Stanbach, Stender.
The amendment passes by a vote of 22 to 4. Now we have before us House Bill 852 as amended. Is there any discussion on House Bill 852 as amended? Representative DeVanzo.
Just for the reasons I just stated, I know the bill's going to pass, but I'm going to ask my colleagues there. Let's just stand for our working families there. This bill is not right. It's just not ready today. I'm going to take a vote for my constituents and vote no, and I would ask my colleagues to do the same.
Any other comments on Representative Rinkavich?
Amending the bill to give the option to a local tax collector to do a certified mail or 3 first-class mail still does not give you that proof of notification. We would not do this anywhere else in the law. I urge a no vote.
Thank you, Representative Rinkavich. Any other comments? Representative Kephart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Although I voted no on the last one, but I'm going to vote yes on this one. And I would, if this would come to the floor, I think I will offer an amendment. I'll put this caveat in there to limit the amount of fees that can be charged. I found out this is actually a local municipality issue, maybe. But I think it's, I think that the fees that be charged, you know, if something goes wrong, they shouldn't be allowed to charge, you know, absorbent amount. I had a constituent of mine actually reach out to me. They said that, so their tax bill was like $20 or something, and then they got nailed on fees because the check never got cashed, and it ended up being like $60 overall, even though they mailed it in, but they'd still paid the $60 or whatever. But they just said like it's absorbent fees for compared to your tax bill. But anyhow, I'll vote yes on this one, but that's my caveat.
Thank you. Any other comments from members of the committee? I do note for the record, Representative Scott is present. Can I have a roll call vote on House Bill 852 as amended?
Chairman Samuelson,
Yes.
Rep. Abney,
Yes by designation.
Sapita Freites, Fleming, Gallagher, Gungauer, Harris,
Yes.
Inglis,
Yes, by designation.
Krajewski. Rab.
Yes, by designation.
Scott.
Yes.
Venkat.
Online and yes by designation.
Waxman. Webster.
Yes.
Chairman Griner.
Yes.
DeVanzo. Fritz. Gatos.
Yes by designation.
Jones. Kephart. Kutz.
Yes by designation.
Mako. Rossi. Rinkavich. Stanback. Stender.
House Bill 852 as amended passes by a vote of 22 to 4. Now we have before us House Bill 853, also sponsored by Representative Joe Webster, and I call on Mark Foreman, our Executive Director, for a description.
House Bill 853 would permit county tax collectors to impose and recoup costs of collecting delinquent county per capita poll and occupation taxes.
Thank you, and we do have an amendment. I will go to the amendment first. I will call up Amendment 396 by Representative Webster and ask our committee executive director, Mark Foreman, for description.
The amendment would strike all language regarding ability to bring civil suits and, strike the language to prohibit bringing civil suits and a contingent audit fee.
Thank you. Representative Webster, would you like to give you the opportunity? And any discussion on the amendment? Representative Kephart.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. I need to correct the record on the last bill. I want to be a no on that bill. This is the bill I was referring to. My apologies. I want to be a no on the last bill, but I will be a yes on this one. My comments were referring to 853. Thank you.
Yes, I will correct the record. The vote to refer House Bill 852 as amended was 21 to 5 with that correction, 21 to 5. Going back to the amendment before us by Representative Webster. Any comments on Representative Webster's Amendment 396? Are there any negative votes on Amendment 396? Okay, so let's have a roll call vote on Amendment 396, sponsored by Representative Webster.
Chairman Samuelson.
Yes?
Abney.
Yes by designation?
Sapita Freites. Fleming. Gallagher. Gungauer. Harris. Inglis.
Yes by designation?
Krajewski. Rab.
Yes by designation?
Scott. Venkat.
Online and yes by designation?
Waxman. Webster. Chairman Griner.
Yes.
DeVanzo. Fritz. Gatos.
Yes by designation.
Jones. Kephart. Kutz.
Yes by designation.
Mako. Rossi. Rinkavich. Stanback. Stender.
Amendment 396 passes by a vote of 23 to 3. Now before us we have House Bill 853 as amended. Is there any discussion on House Bill 853 as amended? Like to have a roll call vote without any further discussion, a roll call vote on House Bill 853 as amended.
Chairman Samuelson.
Yes?
Abney.
Yes by designation.
Sapita Freites. Fleming. Gallagher. Gungauer. Harris. Inglis.
Yes by designation.
Krajewski. Rab,
Yes, by designation.
Scott, Venkat,
Yes, by designation and online.
Waxman, Webster, Chairman Griner,
Yes.
DeVanzo, Fritz, Gatos,
Yes by designation.
Jones, Kephart, Kutz,
Yes by designation.
Mako, Rossi, Rinkavich, Stanback, Stender.
House Bill 853, as amended, passes by a vote of 23 to 3. And our final bill before us this morning is House Bill 1058. The chair calls up House Bill 1058, printer's number 1149. And I'd like to call on Mark Foreman, our executive director, for a description.
House Bill 1058 repeals the lottery profit margin mandate.
And we had a discussion on Tuesday at our public hearing. The bill is sponsored by Representative Schusterman. And in your packets on Tuesday, we had some data from the lottery about the request to repeal the lottery profit margin and how that would impact. We also have new data in your packets. Representative Stamba asked the question about the fiscal impact, and Department of Revenue did give us a projection over the next 10 years that this would enable them to bring in, I think, $1.24 billion, but that's a 10-year figure. The analysis is in your packet. Representative Mike Jones.
Thank you, Chairman. I had this same bill, not the same bill, might have been an amendment a few years back where we relaxed some of the profit margin requirements. Very quick example is you don't have the same profit margin requirements at a Walmart that you have at a jewelry store, although I think it's kind of the inverse in this case. You don't have the same, to put the blanket profit requirement on a $50 or $100 lottery ticket versus a $1 makes no sense. We need to just hold the lottery accountable for the total revenue that they bring in. So I think this is a good bill and certainly support it. Thank you.
Representative Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to mention, I appreciate the prime sponsor, Representative Schusterman, doing this. This came up during the budget hearings with the Department of Revenue and the lottery. And I agree with my colleague, Representative Jones. I mean, if you think about the way the lottery, the tools that the lottery has in the toolbox to raise profits, they are to reduce cash payments and to charge more for tickets. So those are the primary drivers of raising their profit to meet this profit margin mandate. Those are bad things for consumers. The most compelling data that they provided in the hearing when they spoke about this was every state that has gotten rid of their profit margins has reached higher profits because they can offer higher payouts and they can make the games more consumer friendly because they don't have this profit margin hanging over their head. So they can actually be more innovative and more creative with the way they run the lottery. And I don't know about you, but $124 million every year over a 10-year period to support older Pennsylvanians sounds really good to me. So I would urge a affirmative vote for my colleagues. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I should note that I have an amendment to offer, my own amendment to this bill. We're removing the lottery profit margin mandate, but the lottery, as we know, has been supporting our senior citizens since 1972. And so I have a sentence to put in here to restate that the lottery should maximize. I'd like to call up the amendment. It's Amendment A360, and it would just add in the text of the bill that this change in law would be happening while generating maximum profits for lottery activities to sustain or increase the funding levels for programs that benefit Commonwealth seniors each fiscal year. My amendment is just to add that sentence to the bill to make it clear that we're committed to supporting senior programs through the lottery. Any discussion on Amendment A360? Any negative votes on Amendment A360? The amendment passes unanimously. Let me return to discussion of the bill in chief, House Bill 1058 as amended now. Any other members have comments on House Bill 1058 as amended? Are there any negative votes on House Bill 1058 as amended? We'd like a roll call vote on House Bill 1058 as amended.
Chairman Samuelson,
Yes?
Abney,
Yes by designation.
Sapita Freites, Fleming, Gallagher, Gungauer, Harris, Inglis,
Yes by designation.
Krajewski, Rab,
Yes by designation.
Scott, Venkat,
Online and yes by designation.
Waxman, Webster, Chairman Griner,
Yes.
DeVanzo, Fritz, Gatos,
No by designation.
Jones, Kephart, Kutz,
Yes by designation.
Mako, Rossi, Renkavich, Stambaugh, Stender.
House Bill 1058 as amended passes the Finance Committee by a vote of 25-1. With no other business before the committee, I'd like to adjourn this voting meeting of the House Finance Committee. Thank you for your attending today.